So the next part is the status of models development from the different participants. So can you describe, all of you currently attending, who wants to talk about it, about his or her model status and plans?
Yeah, the general idea of this slot in the agenda is to have, you know, an update about the status of model developments, in particular from who is going to participate in the workshop that we are having in Florence, so that you know, we can better understand how to prepare, you know, the workshop, and in particular the hands-on session. So it would be nice and very useful if you could give us a brief update of the development of the model. So if it is ready, if you are still developing the code, if you have started some tests of the porting, and so on. What is the programming language, and this kind of things. Thank you.
Yes, Mattia, we have a first volunteer who is Bager.
Hello. Yes, hello.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. I would like to elaborate a bit more about my case.
Yes.
Actually, I'm working on developing a workflow to quantify water stress in European levels. So I'm targeting to cover indicator 6.4.2 in general SDG number 6. So I'm going to quantify levels of water stress in European countries. The model is almost ready, and I have tested it in local machine. But I hope that, of course, the model code is in R. I don't know if later on I will face any problem for implementing it on VLab, because the code is in R. But also, I'm trying to finalize the code and everything ready with me to have more discussion in Florence, and trying to implement it while I'm in the workshop.
Okay, thank you. Yes, R has already been used in some other models, in particular from the other project, EcoPotential. So definitely it is possible. And of course, if you need any help, you can contact us even before the workshop. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else wants to talk a bit about his model? In the meantime, Mattia, we have another question in the chat, which is to know if we are planning to offer online participation for the Florence workshop, at least for the first morning on day one. Do you have?
I will forward this question to Mariella, who is taking care of all the organization of this, and I will try to understand from her if this is possible. We will send out this information as soon as we have.
Thank you. While you were talking, we have another person in the chat, who's Natalia Verde from AUTH, who said that they are still working on the code. They are now getting familiar with Docker, working with Python on Windows. I don't know, Natalia, if you want to add anything more. Otherwise, maybe Mattia, you want to say anything about Python, Windows?
Well, this is the the things that we were discussing. So if you have again any issue that you cannot, address by yourself or using the online documentation for Windows, please report it to us, both for getting help from us and so that we can add these to the documentation online.
Thank you. So anyone else who wants to say something?
Yes, hello.
Hello.
It's Orestes Spire from the National Observatory of Athens. We are working in the SMERBS project. I just began looking at the previous webinar's material. Our basic idea is to target SDG indicator 11.6.2 concerning PM2.5 air quality. It's a bit different from all these raster and shape files and satellite images we have been discussing so far. Actually, we are thinking of getting from Copernicus an HCDF data file and utilizing NCL for it's a command language for post-processing. So we are only at the beginning, so I don't have many questions yet, but I would like to ask you, I started looking at the documentation. So we are used to working with Linux. So my question is, do I set up the whole local process in my Linux machine and then port it? Because I started looking at the documentation and you mentioned the GitHub desktop application. Is this imperative we go through this? Is it available for Linux, or should we only work with command line? We are used to working with command line, but if I wouldn't want to go against the documentation, at least for the time being.
No. The general idea is, first of all, you develop your model, and this should be, independent of VLab. First of all, when that's ready, then you can think and start the porting. In general, the VLab is based on two main technologies. The Git technology, and almost everybody uses GitHub, and this is used to share the code of your model. Okay, and then you have Docker, which is used in order to generate an environment which is able to run the code which is on GitHub. So merging these two technologies, we can package the model and run it in different infrastructures. So the idea is that after you have your model, you start creating the image, the Docker image, which is providing all the required libraries that are needed for your code to run. And then you share the code on Git and do the publishing on VLab. So this is how the things work in, let's say, in general. Then, of course, if you have more specific questions after you go on with reading the documentation, we can provide more details, of course.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Orestes and Mattia. Anyone else wants to talk?
I see that there is one person who raised the hands here on WebEx, Mariella Aquilino. Want to say something? We cannot hear you. No, I can't hear Mariella. I don't know if the others can.
No. Maybe Mariella, if you hear us and want to share something, maybe you can just write in the chat. Okay. Apart from potentially Mariella, any other feedback? Okay, so if it's not the case, then we maybe Mattia, I don't know if you agree, but we can say that we have now a better view of about the potential new models that should come, at least the two that were presented in the questions. And I don't know, except for this, if there are other questions, more general ones, because there is a last session where we plan some time for questions and answers. So it doesn't seem to be the case. Mattia, do we want to say anything about the Florence workshop?
Well, yes, the agenda, I think it is already online and at least in its draft version, yeah. And well, yes, in particular, we are having in terms of porting models this second day where we plan to have this hands-on session, and that's why I wanted to understand the models which are going to be tested during that session. This is the second day, and the first day is more about presentations, so understanding the concept which is behind VLab and its implementation and so on. I will ask, as I said, Mariella, if it is possible to arrange WebEx for at least this first day. So whoever is coming to the workshop and is going to run, try to do the hands-on session and port the model, of course, it would be useful if you could come with your notebook already with Docker installed and possibly Git, so that we gain some time and for these configurations. Then, of course, if you have any issue in preparing these, please write, and we will try to help from remote as much as we can, so that we can have more time to do the actual porting. I don't have any other specific information about the workshop at the moment, and so I think that it's all from my side. Again, also, well, actually, I would suggest who is already ready to test the porting to start testing even before the workshop, and to send us any feedback, any issue, any question. We will try to help as much as possible.
Thank you, Mattia. So it is the last chance if anybody wants to add something to this discussion. Otherwise, I think we can close here this second part of the webinar.
I would like to add something, if possible.
Yes.
I don't know if it is on the agenda or considered or whatever, or is out of the scope of the workshop in Florence. But I wondered if, I mean, my main concerns are related to two things. One, regarding the data, download the data, how to ingest that into VLab. I think that depending on from where you are retrieving the data, we will have to change the code, because even if you use one link, it would be downloaded in a different way, and I would like to address these issues. And second, obviously my code is working on a Docker container, but I cannot use, for instance, functions. I had to get rid of them because I cannot call other modules or whatever. So I think just to know if it would be possible to dedicate some of the time regarding to Docker, perhaps. I know that maybe other people are using other type of programming language, so I don't know. It's just a suggestion, so that's all.
So, sorry, just to understand if I got it right, Marta. So, if it is possible to have, a slot dedicated to, the use of Docker in VLab and how it works and these kind of things.
Yes, that would be great. But if you could give us some hints about the use of the Docker containers, I mean, because they are working, but I wonder when we are doing more complex things, how we can do so in the same way. And well, obviously, one of the main issues is to use Docker with Windows. So I just skipped that part using a virtual machine, but obviously this is not ideal. And I can only test the process and the workflow in a small raster. And I have rasters with global, worldwide. So I could not even, I don't know if this is the purpose of VLab, to have everything up and running, or just a kind of a proof of concept, which in that case is, well, obviously it can be done, but I cannot run everything as I have it at the moment. So I wondered what is the main goal, the main objective. If it is kind of proof of concept, it's okay. If the idea is to have the whole workflow with all the potential resources up and running on the VLab platform, I see some kind of limitations there regarding even data storage, memory, and things like that. So I just wonder if it would be possible or perhaps helpful to divide the next workflow. I mean, since we are not, I mean, if we are perhaps all of us on the same page, and we have tried to do reporting, perhaps we could have some sessions which are a bit more specialized on, well, certain trouble setting.
Yeah, no, I understand. Well, to first answer your question, the idea is to have the full model ported and working. And the idea of using the VLab is exactly to overcome those kinds of limitations, but because when you run on VLab, you run essentially on the cloud, and you can require as much memory as it is possible on the cloud, which is quite high. And also in terms of data storage, again, you have almost no limitation, because again, we are using the cloud. So the idea is exactly the opposite: to run the small scale test on your local machine to understand if everything is working fine, and then you do the porting, and there you can scale up, okay, providing larger data sets and requesting more memory. For example, you can do that editing your JSON file of the Docker image. You have a dedicated memory there slot, so that you can request for more memory, and you can ingest the data which is bigger, because you are using the cloud. So that is exactly the idea. Of course, this is something that you need to test, but that's exactly why you do it online and not on your machine, because on your machine you might have limitations which are even not due to the use of the technologies, because your machine has, I don't know, 16 gigabytes RAM, while your model to run at full scale needs, I don't know, 100 gigabytes of RAM. So that is exactly the idea. In terms of using, I'm not sure if I got it right, your question. Sorry, I heard some noise. In terms of using additional functions, additional libraries, that is where actually Docker should help, because you can define, you can install these on the Docker image, on the Docker container, and then save as a Docker image and share this image. So I think that we cover these use cases. Of course, there will be some issues running some experiments, but we will try to help as much as possible. In the specific case of the model we have been testing, Marta, of course, we need to go step by step, because we had this issue on Windows on your machine, so you had to install the virtual machine and so on. But we are, I think, doing some progresses, and we can, move on from there, from even in the next days, of course, and also when we are in Florence. I think Florence workshop will be quite useful from this point of view, because we will gather there, and it will be much easier to understand what is how the VLab works. So I think it would be useful. I don't know if I answered your question, Marta, or if...
Yes, just only one clarification. What I meant is just when the user is creating the functions, not regarding the libraries that you can install on Docker. Those are working fine. Okay. But this is a bit more technical, and we don't have to discuss it now.
Yeah,
it was just my question. It would just if it would be possible to have some kind of dedicated slot, hours, or whatever to address specific issues which are a bit more advanced than do the whole workflow and the background behind the VLab platform.
Yes, I understand. For sure, we will be able to discuss this. As I said, we will have the second day, which is essentially totally dedicated to hands-on, and in that day we will have time to discuss these specific and advanced issues, let's say. Yes, for sure, definitely.
Fantastic, thanks.
And in the meantime, we have someone who wrote in the chat, Mrs. Kominkova, asking if there is some limitation on which models can be uploaded and used through the VLab.
Yeah, may I ask limitations from which point of view? Because let's say from the technological point of view, at the moment we have not tested all the possible programming languages or all the possible things. So far, we were able to use different programming languages, different libraries, and for programming languages, for sure, we have tested MATLAB, Python, R, and NetLogo, and others. The only limitation, actually, which I can think of at the moment is that your model will run, let's say, without a user interface. So you will have to, if you have coded something which during the execution stops and waits for user input, this at the moment is not possible. You have to collect the user input at the beginning. Okay, this was something that sometimes we have been asked. So this is the only limitation I can think of at the moment, but in general it is not the case.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, Mrs. Kominkova seems happy with this answer. Thank you very much, Mattia. Any last questions? Okay, so if not, I think...
Hello. Hello, I'm Roberto from Florence.
Yes, hello.
I have a question about the use of satellite images. I would test the VLab using R and using some libraries that can download the images from ESA or from MODIS products. So if I use that, is it better to download the images locally and then upload to the VLab using Docker, porting the machine and so on? Or can I do that directly from the VLab? So porting a machine with some scripts that use APIs, downloading images. I mean, images can be 500 megabytes. And could be a problem or not?
No, the size is not a problem. As I was saying before, using the cloud gives you this, essentially gives you resources, so you can use. Then it's essentially up to you. In general, you can assume that your data will be downloaded for you by VLab. When you launch an experiment, you launch a run, the user provides a link to the data. So VLab will download this data into the exact location that you expect them, and then you can start. When the model starts, it executes the computation. So also for combining this with chaining, possible chainings of models, it could be better to have the data ingestion as a separate step, so you don't download the data from inside your code, because otherwise it's not possible to change it and to combine it maybe with the output of another model or so on. So in general, this is the recommended way.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you. Any other question?